Hey everyone, we're Group 3. Our topic today is around the issues of data collection of big data technology. First, I'll be giving a brief introduction to the topic, outline the stakeholders, then Bakshan will be explaining the ethical issues, Z will be discussing the legal issues, and Yuman will be talking about the social and cultural issues. Finally, we'll discuss the solutions towards the issue and conclude the presentation. First, what is big data? Big data refers to the processing of huge volumes of data that requires advanced storage, management, and analysis methods for gaining insights. There are many use cases of big data. Companies use it to gain insights for improving the services or advertising products. Researchers might collect data to study, for example, how certain events affect the public. The government uses it to monitor the public and quite recently conduct pandemic surveillance for tracking and prevention of COVID infections. However, the collection methods for these data can be quite controversial. Typically, the data are gathered either by directly collecting them from users using tracking techniques such as cookies while the users use the website services, or they might be gathered or web scraped from sources on the internet such as social media websites. One of the controversial examples is Clearview AI, which is a company who scraped millions of images from social media platforms, hence the ethical and legal concerns. They developed an algorithm for searching faces and finding their identity on the internet. The service was provided to the FBI, other US government agencies, and Ukraine as well, and actually provided tangible results and advancements for investigations. Although, as you can probably tell, the collection methods and the massive scale of data collected raises a few legal, ethical, and social concerns. In this presentation, we'll be diving deeper into these concerns around these data collection techniques for big data. Who are the stakeholders? There are a few stakeholders for this issue, and some of them might have conflicting interests. The government will make regulations for protecting user privacy, while also requiring a huge amount of data for monitoring and keeping the public safe. The corporations that own the website will want to gain more data and monetize the data as much as possible, but hates when the web scrapers get data from them. There are also other stakeholders such as the users, the NGOs, the analysts, etc. Here's a rich picture of the relationship between the stakeholders. First, the website owners will be providing services to the users while also collecting the data from them. Between them, the browsers will sometimes provide tracking prevention features to be more competitive. Then the website owners would hire data analysts to analyze the data and help improve the website services, or they might just sell the data to marketing agencies. These agencies would have the analysts find the patterns within the data and use the information to target the users and sell the products. There are also web scrapers that collects the data from the websites for analysis or for profit. The law enforcement agencies might also request data for public safety. Finally, the policymakers and the data privacy NGOs will be protecting the privacy of the users, regulate the companies and the web scrapers by creating new data protection laws. Here's a graph that plots the interests and the influences of each stakeholder. We can see that the website owner, policymaker, and the NGOs have the most interest and the influence, while the users have some interest but little power over the situation. Now I hand over to Bakshan for the ethical issues around the topic. Thank you.
Thanks to Jiang Shan. For ethical issues, we all know that big data technology aims to improve people's quality of life by integrating and analyzing a vast amount of data. How are these data collected? A primary source is social data. Social data comes from the user actions such as photo uploads, tweets, and comments on social media websites. Despite the many gains brought by big data technology, it is also facing a lot of ethical dilemmas and challenges. Data privacy is one of the main ethical concerns when people discuss about the topic of data collection of big data technology. As mentioned by Jiang Shan, a typical type of data collector is the owner of website. They gather users' personal data by providing services to users. During the big data collection process, these data collectors may have intentionally or unintentionally compromised users' data privacy, which may have breached the Code of Professional Conduct of ACS. The ACS Code of Conduct emphasizes the primacy of public interest. The company has the responsibility to protect their users' privacy, and users have the rights not to authorize personal data access to the company. Therefore, data collection should never be conducted without the data owner's permission. Application of analyze approach. When making decisions, to analyze potential ethical dilemmas of an action. Certain questions is the most natural approach to apply that helps in making correct ethical decisions. Different to the other two approaches, I recommend the certain question approach due to the following factors. Firstly, this approach targets the inner feelings of the decision maker by asking questions related to personal feelings, while the other two methods analyze the ethical issues through objective facts. Hence, the certain question approach is more natural to use and can be easily applied to anybody. Since most questions are directly targeting the questioner himself, it raises his sense of responsibility when deciding whether or not to take this action. The limitation of this approach is that since most questions focus on feelings, if the person taking this approach does not have a correct and complete human value of society, it will not work. In order to apply this approach, the decision maker will ask himself the following 13 questions. The first 4 questions relate the decision maker's conscience to legality, policies, and regulations. Question 5 asks whether this action has happened before. Question 6 to 9 allows the decision maker to view and consider the case from different perspectives. Question 10 to 12 identifies many relationships of the decision maker. This reminds the decision maker of the reaction of his close friend, family, client, or boss, and how they will think about him after he took this action. This will help awaken his conscience. The last question is the last thing to be considered before making the decision. It implies that if this action is something that has to be hidden, do you really think it's ethical or correct to undertake this action? After answering all 13 questions, if the decision maker is still in doubt, don't hesitate to ask others for advice. Wise decisions are often supported by multiple perspectives. Next, Z will talk about the legal issues.
Thanks, Boxian. In this section, I will discuss the legal issues caused by web scraping and tracking cookies. These two techniques are widely used to gather a large number of datasets in the area of big data. However, due to the relative novelty of these two technologies, the legality of web scraping and tracking cookies are still gray areas. In the world, only the European Union has legislation specific to these technologies. First, I will talk about web scraping. It is a technique that collects public data from a website through automatic crawlers. The legal issues caused by this technique include breach of contract, contravention of copyright, violate privacy, and cybercrime. The first legal issue is the breach of contract. Because there is no legislation directly web scraping, website owners usually use terms of service as the first line of defense against web scraping. If the users agrees to the website terms of use, which include clear restriction on web scraping, the user still scrapes website data. It may lead to a breach of contract. In Australia, only users enter an explicit agreement such as clicking on the button to confirm. The website owner can enforce the contract. The second legal issue is the contravention of copyright. Without the copyright owner's permission, scraping the website copyright data to gain economic benefits will infringe copyright. However, most data collected by web scraping is factual information that is not protected by copyright, such as price. The third legal issue is the contravention of privacy. Biometric information is categorized as sensitive data, which includes any information that can identify a person, such as email address and personal photos. If the data belongs to biometric information, it is necessary to need personal consent before scraping the data, even if the data is public. Otherwise, it will violate the Australian Privacy Act. The final legal issue is cybercrime. Web scraping may violate the Australian Crimes Act because the operation is similar to a DDoS attack. Web scraping collects data by sending requests to the target website. If too many requests are sent over a short span of time, it will put pressure on the server and even cause the server to run out of resources and crash. Next, I will talk about cookies. Cookie is a small text file stored on a local device to hold user-specific data. Cookies can make the website to understand their visitors better. On the one hand, website improves the user's experience through cookies. On the other hand, third-party companies implement cookies to record users' activities on the website and recommend targeted advertisements to users. It's same as web scraping. There is no legislation specific to cookies in Australia. But if an organization needs to track cookies that contain a user's personal information, such as email address and name, the organization must need the user's consent through the cookie consent banner. Next part, Yumeng will discuss the social and cultural issues of data collection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And now let's move on to the cultural and social issues. Everything we do on the internet leaves an electronic footprint. Shopping, ordering, logging onto the various social platforms. When everything is electronic, all information is electronically achieved, and our activities can be recorded all the time. Data collection can build models based on this massive footprint, sell us things, instill them in our mind, and change our behavior, all of which have already happened. How do cultural value orientation affect how people perceive data collection? There is a contribution conflict involving cultural aspects, which has a conflict between the IT group and the user group. IT believes collecting data can help improve the user experience. However, users think data collection on different social media would result in their individual information leak. It also can be seen as a social problem. So data collection for IT is essentially the study of human behavior and consequences. In other words, data collection is a new and powerful tool for studying the characteristic of human behavior. It breaks the constraints of space and time, helping us to observe the characteristic of those who are far away from us, collect customer information, and then send it to the corresponding developer. And then the developer will accurately place advertisements based on the data. However, users think they are always facing the threat of data security. This also relates to social issues. The most important problem is the leakage of personal privacy on social platforms. Non-compliant platforms and merchants illegally collect personal information without the right to excessively collect information, thus violating personal privacy. And they have the opportunity to steal information or use the name of others to slander others on the internet for personal gain. And now let's move on to the solution. So for users, they need to understand that data is a powerful tool that enables people to look at past performance and see general trends to indicate future performance and immediately decision making. For users, they need to overcome the fear of the data collection because if people are worried about data, and they will not be inclined to use data. To avoid this problem, IT staff can provide people with proper learning tools to make them comfortable with data. Pre-training and discussions are critical. For researcher and practitioner, when using web scraping technology to collect data, there are 3 points needed to be focused on. First, check the terms of the user of the target website to confirm whether there is a clause prohibiting scraping data. Second, make sure that the data does not belong to biometric information or copyrighted data. If scrapped copyrighted data through the principle of fair dealing, make sure the scrapped data is not used for gaining economic benefits. Finally, when scrapping data, do not send requests to the target website too frequently so as to minimize the damage to the website. And when using tracking cookie technology to collect data, the website or app must have a cookie consent banner. The banner must have a user consent button and specify the type and use of the cookie. Practitioners can only track cookies with the consent of the user. Now let's move on to the conclusion. So the first is take-home message, and this one is part in our recommendation section. So it's about a cookie. You can have a look here. And also we have 2 invite questions. The first one is, so far, do you think the benefit of data collection outweigh the cons, or the cons outweigh the pros? And the second one is, what do you think of cookies? That's it. Thank you.